Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. Huh? What we talking about, it goes deep.
Welcome to another exciting episode of WTF Too, where women talk football too, here on SHESP in the network. I'm your girl, Latasha Miles, aka Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess, and I'm accompanied by my talented, beautiful, lovely, charismatic, and intelligent co-host. Let the good people know who you are.
What's up, good people? It's the one, the only touchdown tomboy. I'm in the building today, baby.
Love the energy. Yes, ma'am. Love the energy. And I must again apologize this week. Another back-to-back job for me this week. So I'm scrub-a-dub-dubbed in my uniform. And then also a little bit hoarse, not sick, not under the weather, just was screaming my lungs out at the J. Cole concert the other night.
Yeah.
So that's why my voice isn't 100%. But hey, y'all know how dedicated we are to football. So we're back at it once again, ain't going nowhere. Football's going, so we're here going as well, no doubt. And then we're heading into October. Leaves changing colors, temperatures changing, daylight changing as it's getting darker earlier. But the one constant, and I'm having a hard time grasping this, is that Cam Newton is still an unemployed Floyd in the NFL. I'm just totally shocked. I'm bringing that up because I'm going to bring it back up a little bit later. But wow, I just cannot believe that this early in his career, in my opinion, that we're saying that Cam Newton is no longer a quarterback in the NFL. But nonetheless, let's kick this thing off here at the first quarter. We have 3 weeks in the books in the NFL, touchdown tomboy, and we're moving into week 4. There are still a few undefeated teams here, still some teams with no losses. Now, last week we had 7. We saw the 49ers and the Bucks fall out of that territory. And so we have 5 teams remaining, 2 from the AFC, and more specifically, they're both in the AFC West, the Raiders and the Broncos. And then in the NFC, we have your boys, the Panthers, and then the Cardinals and their counterpart in the NFC West, the Rams. So we talked about these teams. We'll talk about these teams here. Touchdown tomboy. Who is the most surprising 3-0 team remaining?
Well, surprisingly, you know how I feel about the Raiders. The Raiders are still undefeated. You know, that is really surprising to me. Now, I know you'll probably say the Broncos, but I'm going to say the Raiders. And the reason why I'm going to say the Raiders is because, number one, usually at the beginning of the season, and Miami had them on the ropes last week. Yes. And they just couldn't seal the deal. And I thought sure that they were going to knock them out and gave them the blow. But guess what? The Raiders came slinging back. The Raiders did what they had to do. They won that game. And the Raiders said, look, we are for real this year, okay? We're going to be that team. We're going to play good teams, and we're not going to just fall off the cliff this year. So I'm most surprised by them, and I'm really surprised by the Cardinals as well, because now remember, the Cardinals have always had a struggling offensive line. Now, I don't know if it's because Kyler Murray's shoulder was injured last year or what, but he seems to be figuring out how to play behind that struggling offensive line and get them some scores. And so I'm pretty impressed with the Cardinals as well, and their defense is playing very well too. But I would say more so than anybody, definitely it's got to be the Raiders, simply because although the Raiders are good, the Raiders are usually never consistent. They always figure out a way how to drop the ball. And so far, it's been good. Now, if they just go at any moment, I wouldn't be surprised. But as of right now, the Raiders look really consistent. Derek Carr is looking really good. And I'm excited about what the Raiders are doing.
Okay, gotcha. And I know you said that you thought I was going to say the Broncos, but I'm not surprised by the Broncos. I mean, the teams they've beaten, the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets, oh my, they're a collective 0-9. Now, granted, I mean, I know you got to play who your schedule is, but that's a pretty weak schedule. So they shouldn't have had any hard times playing against those teams. And they'll finally get a true test this weekend, and we'll talk about that later. And I know you said that you were surprised with the Cardinals. The only reason why I'm not as surprised with the Cardinals is because I've been like low-key looking at them in the offseason. The fact that they provided some veterans around the nucleus and Kyler Murray, it seems like they were building. They had the nucleus with Murray. and getting those veteran pieces like Watt and having another year with Hopkins and just that tenure. And plus, both of them were coming from Houston, and Houston really was not a bad team with those guys. I just think they probably had issues, as we've seen with coaching and GM situations. So I really like the veteran and leadership that they got surrounded by Murray, and I think that's been a big plus for the Cardinals. So I'm not as surprised with them. Also, the fact that the Cardinals are in the NFC West, that's a tricky division. That division will test you. And so because they've had experience with playing against those teams in such a strong division, not so much as surprised with the Cardinals. Your Panthers, not surprised by them, because I've been talking about the Panthers ever since summertime in my Will Smith voice. I would sing it if I hadn't left some of my voice back at the J. Cole concert. But yeah, since the summer, I've been talking about the Panthers because of the moves that they made on defense. I wasn't so much sold on Matt Rule, still not completely, him coming from the college system and college coaches really haven't done as well in the NFL, i.e. Chip Kelly. And you see what he's done now that he's gone back to college. And you see Urban Meyer coming from college to NFL. So that part kind of scared me a little bit with Matt Rule. I was like, Ja Rule as a coach over Matt Rule. But I guess maybe just 1 year under his belt, kind of figuring it out. And then they made some aggressive moves in the offseason, trading for Sam Darnold, and then the pieces that they got on defense, a lot of speed, a lot of youngsters on defense. So I was really low-key keeping my eye out on Carolina. The only probably nick I would give Carolina is because, they played a winless team. They beat one of their wins. It's been against an 0-3 winless team with the Jets. And of course, we know Sam Darnold, he's already familiar with them as well as Anderson. So I probably have deemed them just a tad but again, that's not their fault. They can't control who they have to play. That's just the next contestant, and they beat them. And then also just looking at the fact they play Houston, a team who's struggling with identity at the quarterback position. Again, can't help what they play on the schedule. But they also played a Saints team who had just come off of destroying Green Bay week 1, and they brought them back to reality. So that was big for the Panthers. But yeah, so not so much a surprise with them. But the Rams, I've always said this, I might as well put it on a shirt. They've been a Matt Stafford away from winning that Super Bowl against the Rams. Against the Patriots a few years ago. So if they had Matt Stafford, then I honestly think that game would have been a lot different. So not as surprised with the Rams because of the fact that they just seemed like they were missing a quarterback. But I'm actually, after going through all those undefeated teams, I'm concurring with you. The one I'm most surprised at is the Raiders. The way they won during opening night against the Ravens, that game could have easily gone the other way. It's pretty obvious that Lamar Jackson's turnovers, they were very costly, very significant, and you can definitely blame him for the reason why. That was more a game that the Ravens lost as opposed to the Raiders won. So I can't really give them full credit for that. And then also in week 2, the way that Pittsburgh checked Waller, I was really surprised that the Raiders won as a result. Now, Carr definitely demonstrated his offensive talent, and Pittsburgh didn't have an answer for Carr. But the fact they contained Waller, I really was surprised again that the Raiders won that game. And then, as you alluded to, the way they played Miami almost had that game, on the road, by the way, and without Tua, by the way. So the Raiders honestly shouldn't have struggled as much with this Miami team, but they did. So I'm agreeing with you as well. I really think that the Raiders are the most surprising 3-0 team here. But we'll see how it goes for the rest of the season, because as we all know, the Raiders' success rests and lie on the health of Carr. So shifting to the second quarter, a transaction that we both told you about. We mentioned on another episode of WTF Too, where we were talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were eyeballing Richard Sherman as a potential to join the team. Of course, watching the legal stuff, the court stuff, talking to lawyers and stuff, kind of monitoring that. But that we gave you guys a heads up about has officially come into fruition, as Richard Sherman has signed a 1-year contract with the reigning Super Bowl champions. Now, of course, initially it was also talked about that he might rejoin his former team, the San Francisco 49ers, but obviously that didn't happen. So touchdown time, boy. What's the significance of Richard Sherman joining the Bucs? Do you think it was necessary? Is it good, bad, indifferent? What's your thoughts?
I think that it probably is necessary simply because the Bucs are struggling on defense. Like, that defense does not look the same as last year. Like, I don't know if they got the Super Bowl hangover or what's going on, but that defense does not look the same as they did last year. That pass rush is not quite as elite with Shaq Barrett and them boys up front. It's just not quite the same this year. And so they having a hard time getting to the quarterback because Matt Stafford looked like he was just back there doing whatever he wanted to do.
Right.
So I'm like, well, is the pass rush gone? Like, what's really going on? So of course, if you have no pass rush, then you're going to have some experienced corners, you know, to be able to, or an experienced secondary to be able to defend those passes in the backfield. And so by default, because Richard Sherman has experience and he's been, you know, previously he comes from Seattle where, you know, he's been Pro Bowler and he knows what he's doing. He's been in the game long enough. I think by default it'll help them significantly, especially if they're not getting any pressure up front. So yes, I think if he can stay healthy, I think that they will definitely benefit from it because they are struggling on defense right now.
Gotcha, Nan. And I know that the Bucs just lost Sunday to the possible NFC champion, and we might see those two teams play again later on in the season. And of course, this on paper, this is definitely a great opportunity for Sherman to add another Super Bowl ring to his tenure. It's just interesting though that he's playing with Tom Brady, a guy who literally snatched the ring from him with that interception with Butler, and now you're joining forces with him. It's kind of like it's almost a little bit KD-ish to Golden State to me when Golden State was when KD was up 3-1, and then Golden State came back and won that series 4-3. And so this is the guy that you almost got a Super Bowl ring from, and now it's like you can't beat him, join him. I don't know. It seems like a little bit of act of desperation to me with Richard Sherman joining them because on paper they are the reigning champs and they look good. But yeah, I don't know. I just really was shocked that Sherman kind of joined the nemesis here, a guy who snatched the ring from you. But for a lot of the reasons that you said, I'm actually on the other end of this. I don't like this fit. I think it was good for Tampa. And like you said, it's crazy that their defense looks as bad as it did because it's basically the same personnel. You really didn't lose anybody and you're struggling. So I agree with you. I think it is a little bit of Super Bowl hangover. But the reason why I don't like this union is because we're talking about a 33-year-old Richard Sherman here. The way that Tampa runs this Todd Bowles defense, like you said, pressure, front seven, very aggressive, very attack type personnel going after the quarterback, and they're not able to do that. That role that the defense does with the front seven, that means Richard Sherman's going to have to play a lot of man coverage, not as much zone. So I just don't know about him being 33, him not being as fast as he once was, and really having that same Legion of Boom experience that he had in Seattle. It's not that same guy. And the fact that you're going to have to be running around the field a lot more against some of these younger, faster guys, I don't really like the fit. Now, granted, you'll probably be out there for only 15 or 20 plays and not as much. But I don't know how much help he can provide in doing so. Now, this is not to take anything away from his intelligence. Very smart guy, Stanford grad. You know, you got to be special to get in Stanford. High GPA. Very, very smart guy. Can definitely provide some leadership and veteranship. And he's already a Super Bowl champion, bringing a lot of that to the locker room. But again, I just don't think scheme-wise that he fits. I'm really concerned for him, you know, which one of these young guys is going to kind of burn him first. You know, what piece of toast is he going to be on? Like, is he going to be on Marita bread first? Is he going to be on, what's some of the other brands of bread? Is he going to be Marita? Is he going to be Bunny bread? I just really feel like
Bunny
he might
bread.
be toast. Yeah, exactly. I really feel like Richard Sherman might be some toast out there just in this scheme. I don't know. I don't think it matches. But one thing I will say, whether he's frequently utilized or whether he's just more on the sidelines, keeping the team upbeat, kudos to Tampa for playing like keep away, making sure nobody else got him and he won't pose a threat to them. And the fact that they have him joining them instead. So kudos to Tampa and making that happen. So touchdown time, boy, halftime presentation. What you got for us today?
All right. So, you know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, or it's been happening pretty much all season, where we've been experiencing issues with staffing in terms of like teams not having their staffing and because of COVID issues, and it's been causing all types of issues and stuff like that. And so like I think sometimes people are like, well, they don't really understand the importance of staffing and what all the different layers of the staff and what they provide, so that they have an understanding of how important those pieces are to making sure that your teams are effectively run. So for halftime, what I wanted to do is I wanted to break down a little bit of basically how organizations are ran. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk a little bit about what basically how it flows from the top down and how it all works together and what the different pieces are responsible for. So of course, with every organization, you have your owner. So your owner is the person that basically owns that team. So your owners are like your Jerry Joneses and your David Teppers. So those are the people that own their franchises, you know, and the owners, you know, they've gone out, they paid significant amount of money to own their teams, whatever team that is. So then under the owner comes the GM. The GM is known as the general manager. The general manager is the person that is basically, they are responsible for player transactions. So whether it's trades, drafts, contracts, they're responsible for all of the transactions that go along with players themselves. And then right under them, they have an assistant that works with them, which would make sense because that's a lot of
it is
that goes together, right? And then right under them, you have what they call the VP of operations. Now, which was interesting because honestly, some of the layers I knew about, but some of them I didn't. So the VP of operations, this person is basically like your HR person. Their job is really just to control the policies, the compliances, and to make sure that you're following the rules. Okay, and that you guys they're governing the rules of the NFL and that we're on target, we're following all the rules, and they're like your HR. That's their job, okay? And then the people that are under them is the VP of personnel, and that person is responsible for basically coordinating team travel. They are responsible for player appearances, making sure the media coverages are together, player orientations, and just supporting the needs of each individual player. That's what it is, okay? And then under them, it comes down to the head coaches, the assistant coaches, which, you know, the head coach, of course, that's the person that's responsible for training and developing the athletes, and of course, ultimately responsible for creating a winning team. No matter what it is, winning team, that's what they want. They want a team to win, right? So now, under them is in football, you have your offensive coordinators. So your offensive coordinators, that's what they're responsible for, everything offense. So their job is to put together all the offenses, all pieces of the offense, what they're going to do, their schemes, what they're going to, like the designs, the plays, that's what they're responsible for, the offensive side of the ball. The defensive coordinator is responsible for the defensive side of the ball, okay? And then, of course, under the offensive coordinator, you have like the wide receiver coaches, the quarterback coaches, people like that, okay? And then on the defensive side of the ball, you have the defensive coordinator, and your defensive coordinator, they are the people that's they're responsible for just solely what the defense does, okay, and making sure that the defense is doing what it's supposed to do. And under them, you may have your defensive lineman coach, you may have your defensive line coach, so you'll have all of those things that'll be tied into that, and they're responsible for making sure that all of those pieces work together. And then of course you can't leave out your special teams offensive coordinator, because they're responsible for making sure that the punt team is right, the return team is right, and that the field goal unit is all together. And so all of those layers make up what the organization is run. So when the people are missing staff and those people are not there, then that's why, because if you got a 53-man roster, one person can't control 53 people. So they need all of those people there to make sure that it's a well-oiled machine. And so that's why it was such a big issue. And it's been a big issue in terms of like COVID and with staff and personnel when they're not coming to the games or they're not able to be a part of the games, because now things are out of whack and they have to figure out who does what, because they're out of sync, because that's typically is delegated down and one person doesn't do everything. It's a team sport all the way around. So that's all I have for today. And I just kind of felt like it was important to kind of convey why all of those layers were important and how it all ties into why people are making such a big funk about why staffing is so important.
Well, I'm glad you broke that down with that hierarchy, because every time I hear VP, like I always think it's higher up, but based off of the totem pole that you gave, like VP of operations is a little bit further down than I thought. I kind of thought they might have been right by owner, because you got owner, VP, but it was GM instead. So yeah, I didn't realize that the VP was a little bit further down. And then I kind of wondered, like, with all the changes, like you said, if like a defensive coordinator can't be there because of COVID, are these work from home? Like, have they been kind of remoting them in, or like we see Peyton and Eli on Monday night, how they're telecasting? Like, I don't know if there's something they can look into.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I will say that a lot of the defensive coordinators have assistants. So if the assistant is probably not in protocol, then I'm assuming that person is taking over.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. Duly noted. All right, good stuff as usual from Touchdown Time Boy, with all that knowledge and letting us know what's going on with the ins and outs, just some of that behind the scenes stuff, because I know I definitely got my learn on with that, because again, I really thought VP of operations was higher up on the totem pole, and Touchdown Time Boy dropping that knowledge let me know otherwise. No doubt. So all right, let's resume here with the third quarter of action. Of course, one of the most talked about coaches in the NFL right now, not for being a Super Bowl champion coach, or not for being like Chuck Pagano years ago, where he had his cancer situation and kind of being like, oh wow, he made it through, or even Ron Rivera recently. These are the type of stories that you want to hear about coaches, more heroic type stories like that, more congratulatory stories like that. But we're talking about Matt Nagy. He's on one of the hottest seats going on right now. Some of the decisions he's made, jeopardizing his quarterback, causing quarterback controversy, some of his remarks before and after the game. I mean, a lot of his antics are in question, and some folks are wondering, does he even want to be the coach of the Chicago Bears anymore? So yeah, his name's circulating in the hot seat pool, but some other coaches' seats are just as hot. They're heating up like leftover lasagna, like J. Cole said at the concert. And yeah, like I said, I'm still reminiscing with the J. Cole concerts. Yeah, these seats heating up like leftover lasagna in my J. Cole voice. So, Touchdown Tomboy, in addition to Matt Nagy, who are you considering to have the hottest seat in the coaching booth?
Man, it's a whole list of them. Okay. Now, honestly, my first person I'm going to say is Urban Meyer, but it's not going to be because Urban Meyer has been around for a long time. I think a lot of Urban Meyer's issue is a lot of the things that he's saying behind the scenes, and some of the stuff that he's doing behind the scenes that just he hasn't quite figured out how the NFL works yet. And so I think that's putting him under some fire, because I'm like, well, the stuff you can get away with in college, you can't get away with in the NFL.
Right.
And so I think the transition of all of that is just causing a lot of issues for him. It's just creating chaos down there in Jacksonville. And so I'm not convinced that he knows what he wants to do. And so because of that, I think that puts him on the hot seat, one. Number two, I would say Joe Judge is on the hot seat, because consistently, this is the second year that the Giants have started 0-3. The Giants have gone out, they've gotten Daniel Jones. They said that was their guy. Then they went out and they signed some big all-season signings this year. They went and got my boy from Detroit, who was like an elite tight end receiver from up there. Then they got Kyle Rudolph. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
I can't either, because I don't think it is Eric Ebron, but no, that's with he's with the Steelers. I can't think of it either.
Not TJ Hawkinson. What's the other one's name that was up there? He was elite too, girl. He was good. But we ain't heard nothing from him. Then you got Sterling Shepard. Like, they went out and they got elite receivers for this offense, and then they call themselves fixing pieces of this defense, and this defense is still not responding. They got issues on the flags and penalties. They issues all the way around, and they're just still, they can't figure out how to win. And I think that and that alone, just because of the inconsistencies and the chaos, is going to put Joe Judge on the hot seat, because it's looking like he cannot structure and figure out how to coordinate a team to put them together to actually win. And that's what it's looking like. That put him on the hot seat. The next person that's on the hot seat is Bill Belichick. Now, the long Bill Belichick. Let me tell you why Bill Belichick is on the hot seat. Because this is the second season. Okay, last season we get it. Okay, now Bill Belichick has been the GM. GM for the last 15 or 20 years. Now, last year he went out and he signed Cam Newton. He didn't have any offensive weapons. Now, if Bill is the GM, then that's Bill's fault that they don't have any offensive weapons, right? They had the money to pay for them, but they had the cap space issues with the cap because of all that stuff that was going on. So, and all this dead cap money, so that puts Bill on the hot seat. Now, at the beginning of the season, they go out and they make a very, very hot move and say, well, we're gonna go off of Cam Newton and we're gonna go with this rookie, which is turning out to be a disaster. And if they can't win at least the 7 games that they won with Cam Newton, then it makes Bill Belichick look like he has no idea what he's doing, and that puts him on the hot seat. So, to me, it's like, what are we doing here? Because if you're going to go out and you're going to replace the person that you brought in, then the person that you replace them with needs to be significantly better than the person that you kicked them out for. And right now, it's not turning out to be that case. And so for that and that alone, to me, that puts Bill on the hot seat, because he's looking like he can't win without Tom Brady. And now this week they play them, and if they get blown out again this week, it's no telling what's going to happen.
Wow, that Bill Belichick one, that threw me for a loop. I was not expecting that one. Probably my answer is not going to be expected either, but I'm going with my own coach, Mike Tomlin. I'm keeping this in house.
I wasn't expecting that.
I know. Because you know how we are. We're very unbiased here. But the one thing I will say, I'll give my disclaimer. The one thing I definitely like about my organization is we are very, very structured. As old as we are, we've only had 3 coaches. Now, all 3 of the coaches have their own Super Bowl, and none of our coaches have been fired. So I'll give us that. I appreciate us not having those blemishes on our record. But I know the patience has grown very thin within the Steelers organizations. And if you look at the wins and losses in our current portfolio in the playoffs, we lost the home game to Cleveland last year. After starting 11-0 and then hitting a wall and just collapsing and just forgetting how to play football. We've been Cleveland's daddy for quite some time. Cleveland ain't even been in the playoffs, and we have excelled there. And then for Cleveland to come into our house after we had just lost to Cleveland the week before, and people were just kind of like, oh, well, we didn't have our starters out. We were kind of sitting them and waiting and letting them rest. And then to turn around and lay that egg the next week. And it wasn't even a close game. Like, Cleveland had that game from the jump. They were up by 3 scores one time. This is a home playoff game against Cleveland Browns, and we lost that game. So that right there is staring into the Mike Tomlin microscope. And again, 11-0 record at the same time. So that's a double win. You go 11-0 and then you lose in the wild card weekend against Cleveland at home. Yeah, no, can't have that. Also, the first 3 weeks of the season, won a big game on the road, come from behind victory against Buffalo. But then we've lost the 2 home games. So we don't know how to win at home no more. When we just lost the playoff game at home against Cleveland. Then we turn around and lose to Cincinnati, another division rival. And then we've lost to the Raiders, all home games. So our home record, we're 0-3, the last home postseason and regular season. Again, this is on Mike Tomlin's watch. And then dig a little deeper. All right. We're 1-2 in the record column. Last place in the division. I cannot recall, and again, I know it's early in the season, but I cannot recall in my history when I've ever said that my Steelers were in last place. Again, this is on Mike Tomlin's watch. And then also digging deeper, going down this rabbit hole here. It's been years since we played in the AFC Championship game. We're almost at double digits of how long it's been since we played in the AFC Championship game. Again, Mike Tomlin's watch. And then even if you look at the bigger scope of this playoff picture, we're dealing with, okay, Mike Tomlin has had 5 one-and-dones in 9 playoff appearances. All right. 8-8 playoff record, right at 500. 12 years since winning Super Bowl 43 and 10 years removed from playing in Super Bowl 45. Not to mention all the controversy of what's going on with Ben Roethlisberger. Like, how do you tell, if you're Mike Tomlin as a coach, how do you tell the franchise quarterback in year 19 who's won 2 Super Bowls for this organization, who was also the youngest quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl before you got there, that was Cowboys, his final years. But how do you go tell Ben Roethlisberger, like, bro, you losing it? Like, you can't start? Do you bench Ben? just the good, bad, and the ugly associated with keeping him out there versus benching him and what might come with that. Whether you keep him or not, he's in a no-win situation with Ben Roethlisberger. So again, all this on Mike Tomlin's watch. There's been talks of Mike Tomlin does not properly prepare his team. Now, granted, he ain't out there on the field playing, but there's been rumbles that he does not properly prepare the team. Not sure what that means, practice or what, but the consensus has been that Mike Tomlin has had struggles with getting the team fully prepared. I love Mike Tomlin. I want him to stay, but I know how Pittsburgh is, and granted, they were very patient with Bill Cowher. But we're in another day and time where the patience has grown thin with coaches. I mean, look at what the Giants have done. And granted, not having consistency has hurt them, but coaches don't last as long anymore. You got to be doing like Andy Reid type numbers or Bill Belichick, which is in question. You got to kind of be doing that type of numbers now in order to stick around. And Mike Tomlin, unfortunately, has not done that. Now, I agree with you. The likes of like your Joe Judge. We already talked about Matt Nagy, and I mean, even you could throw Brian Flores out there, unfortunately, but I still think that Mike Tomlin's seat is hotter than a lot of people are willing to talk about. All right, so
now I will say, let me interject here. Now I will say, in Mike Tomlin's case, though, I think that hot spot is, it's a lot more that comes with that, just because of the history of the Rooney family and just how they do business. And like, because Mike Tomlin is not the first person. Like, y'all had a corner that they basically, wasn't it a corner that they basically wouldn't fire even though he was bad, and they just let him ride off into till he got ready to not play anymore. What was his name? Gosh. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna tell you.
But not Clark, right? You're not talking about Clark, right? But Clark had sickle cell anemia. You're not talking about him,
right? It was a guy a long time before that. But the problem is that I think that because the Rooneys are such a family-oriented organization, sometimes I think they get attached to the players. And I think that starts causing chaos for Mike Tomlin. Now, I think that Mike Tomlin knows Big Ben's time is gone. I just think that Mike Tomlin's hands are tied.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He can't win. He cannot win.
I think it's beyond him. Like, it's not because he don't want to bench him. I think that they're not allowing him to.
That's what I mean. So it's like, you can't win. He can't win in this situation. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the blame game, they're not going to blame Ben. They're going to blame the coach. So he's in a no-win situation. And honestly, they'll let him go before they let Ben go, even though Ben's been there for 19 years. I honestly think Ben needs a little bit of humble pie. Like, maybe let somebody play, because we still need to test and see where we stand with the quarterback position, because Ben on paper is still only there for 1 year. So
yeah, Ben doesn't work out. Ben doesn't do any of the off-season workouts. Nothing.
He doesn't. I've been to training camps, and Ben is just really like, I'm just really like disappointed when I go to training camp. I've seen Ben with my own eyes at training camp, and he's very lethargic and I'm just here so I don't get fired kind of thing, like Marshawn Lynch. I'm like, dude, if you don't get out there and run, like, do some suicides with the rest of the team or something. So yeah, I don't know. Mike Tomlin's hands unfortunately are tied, but we'll see how it goes. Now for the fourth quarter, probably some of the best football action that we've seen that's come during the prime time slot. So whoever the prime time scheduling guys are this year, thank you so very much. Lots of actions, some thrillers, some overtime classics, Cowboys and Bucks to start off the season, Chiefs and Ravens, Packers and 49ers, etc. Touchdown time, boy. What has been the best primetime game so far this season?
For me, the best primetime game I think I've seen this year had to be, and I'm pretty sure this was primetime, was the Ravens and the Raiders.
It was
Monday Night Football. And that was a really good game.
Was.
Like, because they basically, the game was over and they had to come back on the field in overtime. Like, that was a really good game. And I think it was really good to me because although, like, yeah, there were blemishes on both sides of the ball, I think I consistently saw that both teams really wanted it. And that's what made the game really just that good. And for me, that game was, to me, was like one of the best ones, because it was like they went down there and it's like the guy catches this ball and then he just basically turns around and just lands in the end zone. And I'm like, how in the world? And so they thought it was over, but then it was on the one and then he fumbled. Like, it was crazy. I was like, what is going on? Like, that was the wildest Monday night game I had seen in a long time. Now, the Packers and the 49ers was a good game Monday night too, but to me, it wasn't as good as the Ravens and the Raiders.
Gotcha. I was thinking that one too, and I was like, I got a backup in case you picked that one. I had a backup, and I'm going against the grain here with the team that I cannot stand. Like, I really despise the Dallas Cowboys, but that opener Thursday night going against the Super Bowl champions and the performance and effort that they put on, I like a lot of people really didn't think that game was going to be close. Of course, the uncertainty, Dak coming off of an injury. How are they going to use Zeke? You know, Mike McCarthy looking somewhat crazy, like he didn't even belong last year. So it was a lot of questions going into that game. Tampa Bay wasn't any questions. I mean, it was the same personnel, same coach, still Tom Brady, Super Bowl champs. They were at home. They were getting their rings. They were getting their banners. It was just set up for like just a highlight reel for them. And the fact that Dallas just kind of flew under the radar, they kind of took the shots that were fired to them, you know, not even gonna be close. What are they doing here? They don't deserve to be here. Oh my gosh, even Skip Bayless, a diehard Cowboys fan, was just like, I cannot believe it. They put my Cowboys against Tom Brady and the Super Bowl champions. I mean, even he was not giving them a chance. And so for them to kind of stick it out like that and give that effort and that performance, I mean, Dak was a man on fire. They really didn't have an answer for him. It kind of came down to the kicker, or a play here or there being differently, and we probably would have had different results. But yeah, I really think that and also the fact that that game was the first game of the season, that kind of started, like, they kind of set it off of what type of season we were having. The fans were back after a COVID year where they couldn't come to many of the games, some of them none at all, or some of them with limited fans. And, you know, we had like the fake crowd noise last year. And then for us to kind of go back to some normalcy and seeing a 42-year-old Tom Brady, everything around a Jerry Jones team, and I don't know, just all of the hoopla, it lived up to the hype, and the ratings were amazing. It just really, really excelled and exceeded a lot of expectations there. And I think that Dallas did a good job of exposing some of the flaws with Tampa. As you mentioned, their defensive flaws, their issues there, because again, they did not have an answer for Dak. And this is a team that put up three or four touchdowns. Sorry, that's right, the kicker. But if you divided it by the touchdown amount, I think the final score was like 29. So on paper, that is 4 touchdowns when we're talking about numbers. But yeah, like, for them to do that against this Tampa Bay defense, and we just saw what they did to Patrick Mahomes and them in the Super Bowl. And so for Dallas to come out and set that mark, exposing Tampa, and it kind of built their confidence. And we've seen Dallas win a couple of games since then. I think that was probably the best primetime game for me so far. I think that a lot of teams are going to look at that film that Dallas had against Tampa week 1. Probably the Rams did, and kind of looking at what they did successfully against Tampa and kind of use that as a measuring stick and a stepping stone, and setting it up for how to play against Tampa throughout the season. All right, so no doubt that those were our primetime picks so far. Hopefully we'll have many more great primetime games to go for the rest of the season. And so, yeah, let's go get into it here with a little bit of overtime action, the week 4 games. Of course, we always bypass the Thursday game, but jumping into Sunday and Monday's games, we got Washington at Atlanta, 1 o'clock Sunday, touchdown time. Boy, who you rolling with?
Washington
on the road. Yeah, I can't lie. Atlanta fooled me last week. I really thought that Atlanta was going to lose against the winless Giants. They got to win. Washington got kind of embarrassed last week with what Allen did. I think they're going to take it out on Atlanta and should easily win this one. Houston at Buffalo, touchdown time. Boy, who you rolling with?
Buffalo
at home, yeah. I expect a lot of the same Allen that we saw against Washington. I expect a lot more of that against Houston, who has no identity at quarterback. Totally agree with you. Carolina at Dallas, big game for y'all. You know, your undefeated records on the line. Of course, a lot of Cowboys talking trash as they always do. But a lot of people kind of calling this a test for y'all. What are your thoughts on your boys this week?
Well, you know, let me just go ahead and say, because, you know, I got on live last night, you know, with some Cowboys fans. And, you know, I just said what I say, you know. Listen, this is the thing. I'm excited about us being the underdogs. And I'm really excited that we were not favored in this game. And the reason being is because I think that the best thing that Phil Snow could have done was brought in a college defense that nobody can figure out. Because even Sean Payton said that was part of the problem. He was like, we've never seen this before in the NFL. We don't typically see it. They disguise like this. They do it like that. And that we can't, what is going on? We didn't have a clue. And I think that because of that, he'll have a new schematics that they're not used to seeing. And we're going to give them what, and we're fast and up front. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, we're going to be missing JC Horn. But I don't think that we going to go out. I don't think we're going to go out without a fight. You know what I'm saying? And I honestly believe that if we come out there and we can gut punch them and we get a good sack or two coming out and we put Dak on his back 1 or 2 times in the first half, the game is going to be ours because we're going to silence the crowd. That's how we got to win it. We're going to win, but we're going to silence the crowd first. We got to take the crowd out first. That's how you win in Dallas.
Gotcha. I think that Carolina will win because I've never been even my own team, I've never been we were plagued by injuries. Everybody has injuries, okay? It's part of the game. And I'm always a next man up. And I really think Carolina, like you said, even though you'll miss Horn, very aggressive from the jump. It's almost as soon as like the MRI came out, oh yeah, Horn broke his foot, he's out for the season. Oh, let's call Jacksonville, let's make this trade happen. Like it seems like Carolina didn't skip a beat. Don't get me wrong, it's not like, oh, we hate that he's hurt. But from a business perspective, Carolina did not skip a beat. They went round here, made a trade, got some more secondary into place. And the other thing, which I think is genius about Carolina, they had a road game in Houston, okay? They beat Houston convincingly. It was Thursday night. Carolina had a 10-day resting period. That helps. It can help, especially when you're an injured team. Now, of course, it can break up the momentum, but more so than not, you want the 10 days to rest. It's like a mini bye week. Like, when we're talking playoffs or something, maybe you don't want that 10 days. But in the regular season, I think 10 days is a lot more beneficial than it is like, if you got a bye week going to the playoffs, you don't want to break up the momentum. The genius thing about Carolina having these 10 days, they played a dome game in Houston. Carolina didn't come back to Charlotte. Carolina been in Texas this whole time. And I think that that's been genius, kind of getting them familiar and not having them the stress of travel and set of arrangements. Oh, you're back home, you're distracted with your family. Look, baby, we in Texas. We in Texas for 10, 15, 20 days. You can't get to me. I'm not close. You see what I'm saying? You kind of steer away those distractions. And I think that was brilliant of Carolina to do that and not come back to Charlotte. All right? You got two dome teams back to back. You know Carolina's been practicing on dome. Again, coming back to Charlotte, they wouldn't have had that advantage. So you already know Carolina is preparing themselves for that by practicing on the road. All right? So I think that was genius for them as well. So we got two check marks for Carolina already. Get a defensive trade piece and staying in Texas. The other thing I think about Carolina, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, Carolina hasn't played a team like Dallas so far. You're right. But Dallas also has not played a defense as fast as Carolina. And like you said, just the trickeration of what kind of schemes they can run and already hitting Sean Payton, who's more of an offensive genius than Mike McCarthy. I don't care what nobody says. I really am favoring Carolina on this. I know Dallas is at home. I know Dallas is confident. Dallas has played some really, really good games against the Chargers. They're very dominant against Philly. They almost beat the Bucks. But I think that I don't know. I just really think Carolina flying under the radar here and just kind of making these genius moves. I really like Carolina in this. And God, please, because I do not want to hear about the Cowboys for a third consecutive week. So please keep pounding and pounding to Dallas. We got to pop the this balloon. So yeah, sorry to be so like detailed on that, but these are the reasons why I like Carolina more strategy, more so than anything on this. All right. So Colts in Miami, touchdown time. Who you rolling with?
Miami. This is a must win for Miami. Especially with all that they got going on. This is a must win for Miami because even with Tua hurt, if they want to have any ability to be able to go to have some type of playoff contention, they can't be losing all the games while he's out. So they have to at least win this game. And this will be a beatable game for them because Carson Wentz is not great at all. You know how we feel about him. So, you know, and they played the Raiders very good. So this is a very winnable game for them. So I'm going to pick Miami on this one.
I'm picking Miami for exactly everything you just said. Quarterback issues in Indy and the way they played the Raiders and the fact that they're back home to kind of regroup. I definitely like Miami as well. Cleveland and Minnesota.
I'm going with the Browns on this one. Now, I thought that Baker's arm was going to be jacked, but Baker didn't look like his arm was jacked last week. So I ain't going to bet against him this week. Now, Minnesota played a little better last week, but the Seahawks defense is all types of problems. So, but that's not going to be the Browns. So I'm definitely going to pick the Browns to win.
Like, I want on paper, yeah, I think Cleveland should and could win, but this is a bitter pick for me. I want Cleveland to lose. My boys are in last place in the division. I need some help right now. This is an SOS request. Minnesota, y'all back at home again. Mike Zimmer might be on the hot seat as well. So I kind of this is more of a needy pick. Minnesota, you're at home. It's the Dome. You play Seattle well. So I kind of need like a carbon copy of that. Again, on paper, definitely Cleveland, but this is a desperation. This is more of a request. I'm putting in a request for Minnesota to win on this game. Giants at New Orleans.
New Orleans. New Orleans is finally back home. New Orleans. After the way the Giants have played, now the only way I can see the Giants remotely beating New Orleans is like, you know how like one of those games is kind of like a trap game because they just came back home and this is their first game, and because the Giants are so bad that the Saints go out there lackadaisical. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the only way I see that. But the obvious choice is to pick the Saints, of course.
Definitely. And like you said, because I was thinking about that as well. Like, okay, they're back home after everything with Hurricane Ida. And I really thought the Giants would be able to be turning it around. But after I saw what they did against Atlanta, a very winnable game, and how they collapsed, I really just don't see them picking themselves back up and exceeding what they did against Atlanta last week to beat the Saints. I totally agree with you. New Orleans on that one. Tennessee at the Jets.
Tennessee.
Absolutely. Yeah, Zach Wilson, he's going to bake some more turnovers. And this is a very hungry Tennessee defense. Totally agree with you. Even though it's at Jet Stadium, doesn't matter. Really looking like Tennessee should have no problems winning this game. Now, Kansas City at Philly. Andy Reid coming back home. Thoughts on this touchdown, Tomboy?
Listen, I don't know what the woes are in Kansas City, but they got some woes going on. And I thought for sure last week that there was no way that they were going to lose that game. But Patrick Mahomes had 3 turnovers last week. And I'm concerned.
Very much so.
And I'm not sure that Philly is going to go down without a fight. So I feel like this could be a coin toss because you know that Kansas City defense is not that good.
I know.
You know what I mean? And Philly is probably pretty mad because they played pretty bad in Dallas. So I don't know. This could be a coin toss. Yeah, usually, definitely. We used to could say, oh, it's going to be Kansas City, but you can't say the way Kansas City been playing, I can't say that anymore.
Right. And then they lost a divisional game at home, and Kansas City has lost 2 straight. Yikes. But I tell you one thing, I don't feel as bad about my boys being 1-2 because so is Kansas City, and they're also last in the division. Because the other thing is my boys are the AFC champions. So this is really a glaring flaw for Kansas City here. Probably the only reason why I might pick Kansas City is only because, Andy Reid's going back home. This is a city he's very familiar with, a stadium he's very familiar with. And I don't know, I kind of think that sometimes when that happens, that makes that person an automatic internal scout. So I'm going with Andy Reid just because strictly off of the homecoming factor here. And that only nothing to do with Kansas City's talent or performance these past 2 weeks. That's the only reason why I'm thinking Kansas City might get back to 500 this week. Arizona, LA Rams, the battle of the undefeated, 3-0. Somebody's got to drop or tie one, but Which going with touchdown Tomboy?
All right, so as much as I like the Cardinals, it's hard. You can't bet against the Rams, man. They are playing too well. They're playing too well, and even with the amount of pressure that Chandler has been getting, those sacks and stuff, I don't, unless he can get to Matthew Stafford in that backfield and shake up that offense, I just don't see that offense slowing down at all. I just
no, me either. They'll probably double team Chandler. And then also, as you alluded to, Kyler Murray has actually been playing very well with that poor offensive line. And then here we go with this Aaron Donald and Ramsey, and they get a young quarterback on the platter this week. Yeah, no, I like and it's at home. It's in LA. I definitely like LA to remain undefeated and improve to 4-0. So the other two NFC West teams are battling each other. Seattle at San Fran. Another big NFC West battle here. Who do you like on this one?
Well, man, I'm gonna go with San Francisco on this one. Now, although San Francisco should have won last week,
right?
They didn't.
Right.
But they definitely should win this week. And the reason being is because, well, it was the same reason that the Packers were supposed to lose. They got a whole lot of defensive issues, man. Like they got, and I just don't see them fixing them. But I said that about the Packers, and lo and behold, the defense actually looked like it was decent last week. So I don't know. But I'm gonna go. I love Russ. I love Russell Wilson. But I mean, they do, and they are rivals, so I don't know. But the thing is I would say that, but then they did have injuries in San Francisco's backfield last week. Yeah. So I don't know, like, because it's like we looking at mirror images of the same team.
I know. That is a tough one. The thing is, if everything we just said happens, like the Rams go 4-0 and then the Cardinals go 3-1, and if San Fran beats Seattle, that'll put them at 2-2. And are we really gonna be saying the Seahawks at 1-3, a Russell Wilson team at 1-3? I don't know. I'm having a hard time, and I know Seattle just lost a road game. I don't know if they'll lose another road game, but dang, just like I don't know if San Fran will lose a second home game. This one is definitely a toss-up. But then, like you said, the familiarity, these two teams are familiar with each other. They play each other a minimum of twice a year, every year. That's inescapable. It could definitely go either way. I don't know. I don't want Russell Wilson to lose again, but he easily could. I don't know. I just will only pick Seattle only because I just don't want Russell Wilson to lose, but I would not be surprised if they do drop to 1-3. Baltimore at Denver. So Denver, one of the last undefeated teams, is this the test for them? Will they come out of the undefeated field this week?
Baltimore at Denver.
At Denver, yeah.
Huh. Whoa. I'm going to say, I'm trying to think about all the teams that the Ravens have played. And I think this will be the best defense that the Ravens will have played, correct?
Yeah. Because they play the Raiders, the Chiefs are one a threat, and I forgot who else they played.
And then they just played the Detroit Lions.
Thank you. Yeah. So this will be
right. So this will be the best defense they would have played. Right. And they don't really have any offensive pieces at all. Like, I feel almost bad for Lamar because they still, Doyle is still out. Mark Andrews has been non-existent. Marquise Brown has been dropping everything that he's been passing to him, but yet he always complains about how he doesn't throw him the ball. So I almost feel sorry for Lamar because he's literally had to put this team on his back in every game.
Right.
And I'm just not sure that he's fast. Don't get me wrong. He's very fast, but I'm not sure that he'll be able to escape enough pressures from this defense that he'll be able to win. But then the flip side is that the Ravens defense is pretty good. So we haven't seen Teddy Bridgewater under duress. So I don't know.
This is tough too.
Yeah, this is a tough one too. This is a tough one too, actually.
Yeah. See, on paper, I would go Baltimore. Because Denver is beat, they're 3-0, but everybody else is 0-3, 0-3, and 0-3, so a collective 0-9. I never trust that. I'm like, and this is a Baltimore team who has beat the AFC champions. But I know this is a home game, like home and away really don't always matter. However,
Baltimore's playing at home. Wait. Baltimore playing at home?
Baltimore's playing at Denver. And I always look at altitude as a factor when you go to Denver.
Oh.
You a whole mile in the sky.
Yeah,
to me, Denver always has a home field advantage off that alone. I don't care who on the roster. You can't, we talking about Mother Nature here. We talking about elevation and altitude. And I remember, like, Ryan Clark almost died in Denver because of the altitude and his spleen rupture. He found out he had sickle cell anemia. Like, so that's how, like, you don't play. We're talking about elements here. I don't know. I always look at that when it comes to Denver. I want Baltimore to lose again because this is a cry for help. Because everybody, I'm at the bottom of the pack, and we got a hard game coming up Sunday too. I want Teddy Bridgewater to make something happen. I just don't trust their win. They haven't beat anybody. But I would love for them to beat Baltimore. Please and thanks.
Well, I will say this. If it's any consolation, Denver has one of the better underrated receiving corps.
They do, but they lost some pieces on injury. Again, I don't want to tack on injury. They lost two main pieces in between this past week.
Is Jerry Jeudy still out?
I think so, but they got hurt. I want to say Ramsey. That's not it.
Cortland Sutherland.
I can't remember. But they lost a guy for the rest of the season too. I want to say a cornerback. I don't know. I want Baltimore to lose, so I'm gonna go with Denver out of a desire, strictly out of desire.
That's gonna be hard. Honestly, it's gonna be hard. But that's gonna be a hard one.
I want and need
Baltimore. I just think that the way that Baltimore's been willing some games to themselves.
Yeah.
So they've been really willing games to themselves because
oh my gosh, and like Tucker kicked a 66-yarder. Like
right. They've been like, willing games to themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I've never been like it. I've never been like I can't pick a team. Like it's 2 games I haven't been able to pick this week. That's terrible.
It's hard. Yeah, we're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of the season now. We're going to week 4, almost a fourth of the way through. It's yeah, interesting. And speaking of Baltimore, Pittsburgh at Green Bay, right after, like, it's crazy. Now, AFC North got some big games this week.
Pittsburgh is going to Green Bay.
At Green Bay, yes. And I've already said this is a Super Bowl rematch. And I'm every time I pick the Steelers, no, I don't even want to jinx. I'm gonna go with Green Bay. I'm just gonna go with Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going with Green Bay.
And it's at Green Bay. So we're talking about
the little cheesehead came back last week.
Yeah, so. Exactly. We're going, and this is a Super Bowl rematch.
That offense looks like the offense used to look. Last week, the offense looked like it used to look.
Like I've been saying, Aaron Rodgers was toying with everybody week 1. He just wanted to show people, like, this is what y'all got to look forward to when I leave. And I'm gonna go back to my regular self so that, like, I gotta make you people appreciate me. And then we got he don't pull the belt back out too. He done pulled a State Farm.
I missed that.
Yeah, against San Fran last week, he pulled the belt back out. So I'm like,
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I missed that.
It was when they won. It was it was like 37 seconds left, and they won the game. And Aaron Rodgers pulled the belt back out at the end of the game.
Now,
so I'm like,
I was at work when I was watching it, so that's probably how
it was real quick at the end. It was like in the midst of celebration, like people started surrounding him and stuff, but he threw the belt out real quick. But people started surrounding him and celebrate. So it was real quick, and it wasn't blatant. You know what I'm saying? It was just real slick, and he was crowded around. So yeah.
Well, he done pulled that belt back out. That means he done got serious.
And he finna put that belt on us on Sunday.
So, he done put that belt back out. He done got serious.
He about to pull that belt out on us. The Sunday night game. Tampa and New England. And see, this is why I'm so mad that Cam ain't there. Because Cam is the only quarterback that Tom Brady has never beaten in a regular season. And that was like, when they announced this on the schedule, I was so looking forward to like, ooh, Cam versus Tom. And it's in New England. The house
and
that
you know
Tom
what's
Brady
crazy? And you know what's crazy? Cam would have played his tail off just because he would have wanted to prove that they could beat them. And he would have did that. He would have done that for Bill Belichick.
Exactly. And now look at you. And now your quarterback ain't done that. Now you're 1-2. The team that you beat is a 0-3 team. Yeah, I'm definitely
and now
going.
Look, and get this. What's worse is now everybody mad at Shannon Sharp for telling the truth. He told the truth. They would have been 3-0 or at least 2-1.
At least 2-1. Now you about to be 1-3 because you got Tom Brady coming back home. He know every spot on this field. This is a place that, and now we know. Now we also know that it was Tom Brady, not Bill Belichick, that made New England what it is today. Like, we know that now. So yeah, good luck with that, boy. It's got to be Tampa. Oh, and plus James White out for the season, came out earlier today. So that's another breakdown in the offense. It's definitely Tampa.
I'm telling you, they're going to molly-wop. Okay, molly-wop.
Yeah, especially after coming off of a loss against the Rams last week too. This is a home game for Tom Brady. Yeah, Monday night game.
They're going to molly-wop the little boy.
Absolutely.
And they're going to feel horrible. Listen, I went and looked at their record. I went and looked at the games that they have for the remainder of the season. They're not going to win 7 games this year.
No, they're not going to win 7 games this year. Even with that extra game by them having 17 games this year, they're still not going to win 7 games. 6-11.
And they wore Jermaine Wiggins out because Jermaine Wiggins told them on that WEII Boston show that letting Cam Newton go was going to be a horrible mistake because he was not ready. And they told him basically, screw you. He is ready. We're crowning him as the next Tom Brady. And I said, no, experience matters. You can't put these kids out here and think because they can throw and they don't have no athletic ability that they're going to know how to play this game.
Yeah,
they can't do it.
Look at Justin Fields. You only you only get 1 or 2 anomalies. Everybody's not gonna be an anomaly. We've already seen it with the Chargers quarterback, so that was it. You're not gonna get it from Fields yet. You're not gonna get it from Jones yet. It's just not happening. Monday night game, a divisional game, the Raiders, undefeated Raiders at the Chargers. Chargers, of course, winning big in Kansas City. Where they knocked the Raiders out of their undefeated realm.
Whoa. So who going where?
It's Vegas at Chargers. Raiders at Chargers. Monday night.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to go with the Chargers. Because the Chargers they've always had a decent defense. But I just don't see the Raiders having an answer for Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. They got too many weapons. I just don't see them being able to stop all of those people.
I don't either. And I think the Raiders are due for a loss. They played Miami too close. They did not win that game against the Ravens. The Ravens lost that game. Can I stand the Ravens? They're a divisional rival. But the Ravens lost the game. The Raiders did not win it. Lamar Jackson set that up for y'all. Y'all need to send him a gift basket. So the fact that the Raiders have those 2 games right there, they're due for a loss. They've been too close. The Chargers are riding high right now. They're home. Yeah, I like them as well as a divisional matchup. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of WTF Too. Touchdown Tomboy Gridiron guys. Any shout outs, anything going on, any announcements?
No, man. Week 4 is up and ready, man. I'm ready.
Just ready for another week. Absolutely. So, yep, 5 undefeated teams, one of them being yours. So we'll see if it remains 5. If it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, it can't go to. It's got to be at least 1 left because 2 of them are playing each other. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Very interesting. going into week 4. So for WTF2, touchdown time, boy, gridiron guys, we appreciate you guys for joining us. We appreciate the comments and the feedback. We are out. We'll catch you guys next week. Thank you.
See ya.